Open debate among U.S. Catholic bishops over whether or not to issue a statement on Eucharistic coherence continues to escalate. As first reported by The Pillar, more than 60 U.S. bishops recently signed a letter to the president of the U.S. Bishops' Conference, Archbishop Jose Gomez, urging him to not move forward with plans for a discussion on Eucharistic coherence at the bishops' June meeting. The topic has especially been gaining traction following the inauguration of President Joe Biden and the question on whether prominent Catholics who oppose the church's teachings on life, like Biden, should be able to receive Holy Communion. Archbishop Salvatore Cordileone responded to the attempts by other bishops to delay the Eucharistic document, writing, "I'm deeply grieved by the rising public acrimony among bishops and the adoption of behind-closed-doors maneuvers to interfere with the accepted, normal, agreed-upon procedures of the USCCB. Those who do not want to issue a document on Eucharistic coherence should be open to debating the question objectively and fairly with their brother bishops, rather than attempting to derail the process." Joining us now on Skype is Archbishop Salvatore Cordileone of San Francisco. Welcome back, Your Excellency. You have been very vocal on this topic of Eucharistic coherence. First, can you explain what that means and why you've really been at the forefront calling for this?
Yes, Eucharistic coherence. The term actually comes from the Aparecida document of the Latin American Bishops' Conference. That was main author being the Archbishop of Buenos Aires at the time, Cardinal Jorge Bergoglio, now Pope Francis. Coherence means there's a consistency between when we receive the Holy Eucharist and the way that we live our life, that we need to be properly disposed to receive the Eucharist. It came about in that document precisely talking about very grave moral evils and the responsibility of Catholics in political life, that they need to be championing the cause of justice and not evils, in order to have this coherence between what the act of receiving communion means and the way that they live their lives in conformity with that.
We are approaching the feast of Corpus Christi. This topic of Eucharistic coherence goes beyond pro-abortion politicians, doesn't it? Can you speak to the need for all Catholics to be better catechized on the Eucharist?
It certainly does. It goes way beyond that. And this is something the bishops have realized for a very long time. We've been debating this and discussing it for a very long time, at least 20 years now. And I remember as a new bishop, this issue coming up and the realization that the problem is our people don't understand what the act of receiving communion really means, and that sense of worthiness to receive Holy Communion. So certainly, Eucharistic coherence applies to every single Catholic. Catholics prominent in public life, have an additional responsibility in terms of the public witness that they give, but it applies to all Catholics. So we do need to have a very major effort in recatechizing our people about this. And so it's providential that at the same time the bishops are working on the Eucharistic Revival Project. It's distinct from this Eucharistic coherence document, but it's also about trying to bring the Eucharist back to the center and core of Catholic life, and our understanding that Christ is truly present, body, blood, soul, and divinity, and then what it means to receive him in the Holy Eucharist, that we're living our lives in conformity with the beliefs that we profess.
Well, speaking of the U.S. bishops, the U.S. Bishops' spring meeting is about 2 weeks away. At this moment, what are you expecting to happen on this topic? Are you hopeful there will be debate on Eucharistic coherence?
Yes, there will be a debate. The Archbishop Gomez is committed to following the procedures of the conference. The procedures are there to ensure that matters affecting the whole body of bishops are treated in a fair and objective way, that everyone has an opportunity to have a voice in it. The administrative committee meets in advance of each general meeting in order to set the agenda, and the administrative committee voted overwhelmingly to put this on the agenda. What is on the agenda is voting whether or not to issue this document. The bylaws of the conference require this, that if it's a document of the full body of bishops, the full body must approve the writing of such a document and issuing it. Then the respective committee, in this case is the doctrine committee, will actually write the document, and then when the document is prepared in November, will will debate and vote on the document itself. So this will be on the agenda. We will be discussing it and debating it and voting to whether or not to issue this document. And that will happen. And I'm anticipating a vote to go forward with this. I sense among many bishops the even greater sense of urgency on this matter.
It's really clarifying. Your Excellency, President Biden is the second Catholic U.S. president, but the first Catholic president facing nationwide legalized abortion. If I'm understanding it correctly and everything you just explained, the current question facing U.S. bishops is whether or not to begin drafting a document about the topic of Eucharistic coherence. What's your response then to Catholics who say that's not enough, especially in the wake of this scandal and confusion by having a pro-abortion Catholic president?
A document in and of itself is not enough, that's correct. But precisely because of the confusion, we need a document will help to spell out the church teachings and positions on these issues, and it will be inclusive. It's not focusing only on abortion. It's not focusing only on politicians. It's any very serious evil. We are facing many of them nowadays, and the responsibility that all Catholics have. But documents such as this will lend greater clarity to the issue, to the church teaching, but it always depends on how the documents are implemented. And ultimately, it will be up to each individual bishop in his diocese to use this as a resource in teaching and acting in order to recatechize his people on the beauty of this Catholic truth.
The Vatican has also weighed in on this debate. The CDF is guiding U.S. bishops to have serene conversation on this topic and issued a call for unity. What do you make of this, and do you take that to mean U.S. bishops should not be publicly speaking out on this?
No, he did not say that at all. I don't know really why this letter from Cardinal Laudari was necessary, other than it was a response to a letter that Archbishop Gomez had written. So I suppose it's in light of that. But Cardinal Laudari gave some very reasonable advice to the bishops about we do need to have some serene conversations, dialogue about this. But again, we've been doing that for 20 years. He speaks about a second stage of dialogue of bishops with Catholic politicians. That has been going on, too, in the case of individual bishops and individual politicians. So we have been doing what he has asked us to do. He also recommended to us to use the letter that then Cardinal Ratzinger issued to the bishops back in 2004, giving some guidance on this very matter, and to use those principles in guiding our own document. In that letter, Cardinal Ratzinger cites specifically the issues of abortion and euthanasia as particularly grave evils that Catholics in public life cannot promote, and that these conversations have to take place, and if over time they prove to be useless, we cannot move the individual down the path of conversion, then the bishop must make a declaration that they're not to be admitted to Holy Communion. So it's basically what's already in canon law. Cardinal Ratzinger lays that out very clearly for us. Cardinal Laudari suggests that we use these principles in guiding our own documents. So we certainly have the support of the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith in light of what he put in the letter to go forward in this way with our document. We have just under a minute left, Your Excellency, but I do want to ask you, the last time we spoke, our interview garnered over 1 million views and counting online, which to me indicates there are a lot of Catholics asking questions on this topic and interested in this. What do you want to say to our viewers on how they can be productive and fruitful and be engaged in this conversation that we're having? Yes, while you're following the conversations in the media, please could be advocates for life. Let your bishops and your pastors, your parish priests know that you support them and how much you appreciate when they take stands on behalf of protecting human life in every stage and in every condition. We know we have your support, but to hear it voiced to us directly is a great help to us.
That's really helpful to hear. And thank you for your clarity and taking the time to join us again. Archbishop Salvatore Cordileone of the Archdiocese of San Francisco. Thank you.
You're welcome.